Hello, my name's Oliver, and today we're going to continue to look at Midivex, the intelligent MIDI routing matrix. In the last video, we had a look at setting up MIDI routes. We configured our MIDI devices, and we could add routes to the matrix here that you can see on the page. Today we're going to look at patch management, which is sending program changes down to all of our synths and receiving them too, and setting those up as presets that we can instantly change between to update all of our synths. We're going to go over to patches, so we're going to switch from routes over to patches, and this is where we set up our patches and presets. In the last video, we also looked at adding MIDI effects to routes, where we could add echoes and ARPs and things onto those routes. Because now that we're using patches, we're going to make an important change. If we open up the setup page, we want to use effects on patches instead of routes. This means that when we add a patch and we configure all the program changes, we can also add those effects to one of those patches and they'll be saved within the patch, which means we can recall all of our effects, all of our program changes by selecting that particular patch. First thing I'm going to do is I've got no patches in my patches window. I'm going to click the add button and we're going to add a patch in. I can rename that. A lot of people call them songs, so this might be song number 1. And we're ready to go. Down the bottom you can see all of the instruments that we have available in our MIDI devices, and if I want to use these in a patch, I just drag them up to the window. So I'm going to use my main keyboard and we'll use the Prophet. Because we had all instruments playing on the one keyboard, I'm just going to use the solo button just to solo that, and so that when you see that, we're now playing the Prophet. And it's pretty easy to tell that I'm playing the Native Instruments keyboard, which is flashing in blue, and the receiving keyboard is in orange, just to help you with some visuals there about what's going on. What you can see on here is a bank and a program number for the Prophet. Now, a lot of synthesizers, well, they're all different really. Some of them have banks and programs, some of them have different preset ranges, but most of them receive MIDI, and so by configuring that correctly, it allows us to change those program numbers. And as an example, if I drag this program number up, you can see the numbers changing, but it's also changing on the keyboard. And I can drag up and down, and it's changing those program numbers, which I can play as we go through. Same thing for the banks. If I drag the banks up, which means that I could set a bank and program number for this particular keyboard. If I was to add another keyboard on, for example, let's add the Take 5. You can see that it's got a very different configuration. I'll solo the instrument and I'll play a note. And in this case, it's got sub-banks, banks, and programs. So it's got a user and a factory section, then it's got its banks, then it's got its programs, which I think go up to 16. The way we do that is in the setup for each of the devices. We covered this in the last video, but I'll just drop back into here. We can see all the devices, and if I go down to, for example, the Prophet, we have a list of presets available. And by selecting the right preset, it tells us how to set up those program and patch numbers. Now, this is a growing list. We're adding lots more regularly, and if you need a hand, we're happy to add them. And there's also a custom option at the top there where you can configure your own. So it just makes it a lot easier because the visuals match the keyboard. Let's add another keyboard in. Let's add in the Hydrasynth. You can see the Hydrasynth actually has banks A to E. Again, so it's different. If I solo that instrument, and we can change those program numbers all the way up to 127, I think. And we can change the banks through from A to E as well. Let's add in one more. Let's add in the Moog. Again, if I solo it and play, okay, and we can drag those banks up and down, and we can drag the patches up to where we want it. Tell you what, put that on 10. Sounds a bit better. We've now got quite a few synths in this particular patch. It's saving as it goes, so we don't have to do anything. It's remembering the numbers that we selected, and if I was to come back to this patch, it's automatically going to send that information down. You can see that because it's got auto send up here, which means whenever we load a patch, it will send it down. Some people want that off, and then they can just use the send all button when they want to send that information down to the keyboard. Where it gets interesting is if we use this listen all button. So if I enable listen all, now Midivex is actually listening to the synths. And so that as I change the preset numbers on the physical keyboards, it's going to update the screens here. So the Prophet's in front of me at the moment. So if I change the bank number here, and then change the tens, and I change the preset, it's updating on the screen as we go. Now that means I can start a jam. I might have a sequencer running with some drums, and I can jam around, play on my keyboards. I can change all my synth presets. I think you probably know what it's like. It's really hard to remember all of those. And Midivex is listening out for those and remembering those, so that whenever you come back to this particular patch, it's sending all that information straight back down to the keyboards, and you can carry on with your jam or remember those cool sounds that you had. Of course, you can add effects on there as well, and we'll cover that in the next video and show how that all comes together. But we also have a local control here. So if I go back to the Prophet and I play something on here, I'm playing on my Native Instruments keyboard, but if I play directly on the Prophet, you can see now that's in blue. But I can turn the local control of this keyboard off, which means it no longer plays. I can still play it through the keyboard, but I can't play it on the local keyboard, which means I can add effects and I don't get loopbacks and all of that kind of thing that MIDI can do. Local controls are also saved in the patches. So if I create another patch or some more patches here, and then I come back to my song, it's automatically going to send the program changes and set the keyboard to local control off. Great, well that's your quick introduction to patch management, sending and receiving program changes, local controls, and in the next video we'll put that all together with some patches and some effects and show you what happens with the clock sync and other features. See you in the next video. Cheers.